As the 19th century dawned, more influential Salem citizens arose. Once an employee at Salem's Custom House, Nathaniel Hawthorne began to write new literary masterpieces for the still uncultured country. His Scarlet Letter and House of the Seven Gables are read all over the world. And yes, for those of you not from New England, there really is a House of the Seven Gables. It still exists on one of the side streets of Old Salem. I was invited to the House of Seven Gables to produce a video for my Let's Visit show. It was a beautiful July morning in 2022. So let's get started.
Hello, so welcome to the House of the Seven Gables. We're in our little orientation room here where we start our tours. The House of the Seven Gables is also known as the Turner Ingersoll Mansion, and it was built in 1668 by John Turner I and his wife Elizabeth. 3 generations of the Turner family lived here before it was sold to the Ingersoll family. And then the Ingersoll family is how we get our connection to Nathaniel Hawthorne. So one of the Ingersolls was Hawthorne's second cousin, and he would come and visit her here in the house, which is how he was inspired to write his novel, The House of the Seven Gables, published in 1851. The house then took on a whole second life as a literary place, and people started knocking on the door, asking if this was indeed the house from Hawthorne's novel. And so in 1908, a woman who grew up here in Salem by the name of Caroline Emerton purchased the house and spent 2 years renovating it. And we opened in 1910 as a museum and settlement association, providing services of language classes as well as assistance with finding jobs or skills for jobs for the greater Salem community.
These floors, look at the wide boards here. It's unbelievable.
We have some really lovely wide boards, but you'll notice that we don't have any boards that are wider than 2 feet. Any boards that were wider than 2 feet were marked as King's trees and had to be shipped back to England for use in the King's Navy.
And this is the hearth.
Yes, this is the hearth here in the kitchen. The kitchen is restored to look as it would have looked in 1668 when the home was first built.
I lived in an Ipswich house built in 1658 with a similar fireplace. This is the main stairway to the house?
This is the main stairway to the house. So this is, behind you is actually the front door of the mansion. So we bring visitors in the back door and they leave out the front door.
All right, if I turn around, I'll see the front door of the place?
You will indeed.
All right, let's try it. Around and around and around. Oh, there it is. That is the front door of the House of the Seven Gables.
It's actually a very interesting front door.
Why is that?
Because it's a very decorative piece here.
Oh, yeah.
It's got about 500 iron nail heads in it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Holly, what is this room? We're on the 3rd floor,
We're
right?
on the 3rd floor. This is the main section of the attic, and this is where you get to see the most original parts of the house. Most of the white oak and white pine board and beam up here is original to the house. So back over in this corner, we have one of the examples of insulation that they were attempting to put into this house. It's horsehair mixed with plaster in this sort of fuzzy section of wall. And then on the other side of the window is our other example. We've got some brick and mortar nogging that you can see just to the right side of the window there.
Well, it must have been effective.
It was somewhat effective.
Somewhat effective, yeah.
They were trying, and they were spending quite a bit of money in order to put all of these really nice building materials into this house.
Then this was a very expensive mansion at one time.
Yes, this was. So it was actually built in sections in 3 different building stages. So the first building stage was 1668, and then 2 years later they added on a little bit onto the northern facing side of the house, and then about 12 years after the first piece of this house was built, they added a very large addition onto the southern facing side of the home.
Now I notice to your left, there's a bunch of bottles up there.
Yes, so
Did they have their own rum or something?
Well, they imported quite a lot of things. So both the Turners and the Ingersolls were making their money in the shipping trade that's right out of Salem Harbor. So they're importing many things such as rum, but also sort of any other goods that you would typically find in your early colonial trade.
They not only traded with England, but they also traded with in the Caribbean, is that correct?
Yeah, so actually John Turner I, who built the home, had a cousin who was also named John Turner, who owned a sugar plantation down in Barbados.
Ah, there you go. There's your rum right there.
Yes. So this is a little model of the house. We're currently here in the attic.
Way
this
up
back
there.
little peak, yeah.
Okay.
Or gable.
And then this is one of the gables, right?
Indeed, we are standing in a gable up here in the attic.
This is one of 7.
Yeah.
Okay, what is this room on?
This is the room we call the accounting room.
Oh.
So this is the place of business within the home.
And we're on what floor?
We're on the 2nd floor now.
Okay. So the business was run here?
Yeah, so this is one of the places within the home that the Turners, the Ingersolls would come and work on any sort of accounts or shipping things. And there was a wharf that came with the house called Turner Wharf, and it stuck right off the end of the street that we're on here onto the harbor. So ships that they own can basically come right up to their front doorstep.
Now I'm fascinated by this wallpaper.
Yes, so this is our Diana print wallpaper. We were doing some renovations in here not too long ago, and we had to take a few boards out of the wall. And we were peeling back layers of paint and wallpaper, and this is one of the patterns that we found when we were doing that renovation. So a company out in New York recreated and installed this wallpaper for us, and this is what the room looked like at one point in time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And what room is this?
So this is the great chamber. This is basically the master bedroom of the home. And it was part of that 12-year later addition once the Turners had made a little bit more money in the trade. So the bedroll back here is one of the tools we use to talk about unfree labor here at the Gables. So during the time when the first generation of Turners were living in the house, there was at least one indentured servant working on the property. Her name was Joan Sullivan, and she had come over from Ireland to be indentured to the Turners, meaning she had a period of time where she had to work for free, but then at the end of her contract, the Turners owed her some sort of land or money in order for her to make her new life here in the colonies. But by the time the second generation of Turners are in the home, we know of at least 5 enslaved people who were living and working here on the property. And their names were Titus, Louis, Phyllis, Rebecca, and Jane. And they were enslaved people of African descent who had no end in sight to their unfree labor for them or for their children.
That's sad.
It is very sad, but it's also a reality of having houses like this. There's no money to build a house like this without a trade system that relies upon the enslavement of millions of people as a base of this trade route.
That even makes it more sad.
And of course, houses like this are so labor intensive that they just don't function without the work of these indentured and enslaved people.
Now, Holly, is that the kind of hat you would have to wear at night?
Yeah, so that's a cap. So it's something you would wear inside the house. You might wear it at night, you might not, but you would have to put a bonnet on over it or some other sort of outer hat when you're going out and about during your day.
And for the baby?
Yes, a little cot for the baby. Families were living on top of each other. Nobody really got their own bedroom in the house.
I love the views from the windows.
Yes, so you'll notice that the ceilings in here are actually quite high and the windows are pretty large. And it's because they had made so much money in the trade by the time they added this addition that they didn't really care how expensive it was to try and heat these rooms with so much firewood.
Now, out of this window, what is that body of water there?
That is Salem Harbor. So it's the Atlantic Ocean, and you can see Marblehead on the other side there.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Now I noticed that there are several portraits above the fireplaces.
Yes.
Who are these people? Do anyone know?
This is John Turner III. He was the last of the 3 John Turners to live here in the house. But he also lost the entire Turner fortune.
Oh.
Right in that corner.
This has got to be the main room of the house.
Yeah, so this is the parlor. This is part of that 12-year later addition. And it said that John Turner I always wanted a house with a parlor, so he made sure to add one on. And this is your main entertaining space in the home.
Of course, yeah. It has a dining table.
It's probably a card table, actually.
Card table, okay.
Card table, and then a little place to have some after-dinner treats, but you'd be having your main meal in the dining room, a lot closer to the kitchen.
So this is for treats only.
Yeah, light snacking, probably tea times in here.
And for entertainment, we have a harpsichord.
It's a full piano. It's a very early 1800s piano made in Boston. And above the piano is a portrait of Nathaniel Hawthorne, who of course wrote the novel The House of the Seven Gables.
And you say his house is here now?
His house, yes, the house that he was born in was moved here to the property in 1957. 1957. Okay. Yeah.
Let's take a quick look at another house in the complex. This was Nathaniel Hawthorne's birthplace. I love that door.
Yes, this is a very fun door because it's one of the really great examples of this house being functional while showing off. So,
Oh my!
you take a look. This is the bar.
That's a surprise. I expected a room to be there.
Yeah, no. So this is the bar. This is where you get to both store and display all of your expensive imported goods.
Now, there's one matching it on the other side. Is that fake?
That is fake because this is Georgian style
Right.
paneling.
Balance, balance, balance.
Everything must be symmetrical.
Beautiful. So this is the dining room.
Yes, this is the dining room for the house. This is in that original part of the home that was built in 1668. But it's been restored to a later date than the kitchen was restored to. So it's more in the style of the late early 1800s.
Is this called a sideboard or a buffet?
Yes. Both.
Yes, both.
I'm not exactly sure what our official term is, but I can find out. So this is a Hepplewhite style serpentine sideboard circa 1780.
Probably made in the Boston area or England.
It could have been made here in Salem, but was likely made by a Beverly cabinet maker.
Oh.
So one of the most special things here at the Gables is actually a fictional space that Caroline Emerton added when she turned this place into a museum. And it's quite a bit of a secret here. If you've been here before, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But in this cabinet, where you used to store firewood and you have some warming ovens built into the side of the fireplace, it looks pretty inconspicuous, but actually...
Nice firewood storage, yes.
Yes, but actually...
Well, go ahead in. Not much room in that little closet.
Yeah, if you know where to pull, though...
Oh, my goodness, what is this?
You get to see our secret staircase.
Wow. All right, let's go. This is scary.
Yes, it is not for everyone. And if you do come and tour here, you never have to go up these stairs.
I can see why. But we're going to give it a try.
Yeah.
I've done it before in my lifetime, but so this is the second time. probably 60 years ago. Oh my word.
Yeah, it does a bit of a switchback on you.
Tell me, Holly, why was this here?
So, this was added by our founder, Caroline Emerton, once again for lovers of Hawthorne's novel.
It wasn't original to the house?
Not as far as we can tell.
It's creaky.
It is indeed. You can't sneak around anywhere in this house.
I don't know if I'm the oldest one ever to climb that, but I did climb it. Is this a secret room now?
So this room is actually part of the attic. It's the attic garret. But when the house was first turned into a museum, this would be staged as a bedroom and called Clifford's bedroom. Clifford is a character from the novel The House of the Seven Gables.
Okay.
And there's a scene where he mysteriously appears from the third floor bedroom into the dining room, and no one can figure out how he got there.
We know.
So now we know, and if you come on tour, you can experience the secret passage for yourself.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I know my viewers will enjoy this,
Okay.
and I'm sure they'll want to come here and do it for themselves.
Well, I hope they do. We're open throughout the summer and the fall, 10 to 6, 7 days a week, so.
You're huffing and puffing like I
I
am.
know. It's a little tight in there.
It is, yes.
It's never quite my favorite, but
Do you have to do that at every tour?
It depends on if everybody goes up. If everyone goes up, then I do.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to go up the main staircase, then I go up the main staircase
All right.
with them.
So now we're going to take the easier way out.
Yes, we're gonna head back into the main part of the attic over here.
Oh, we've been in this room before.
We have indeed.
And we've done our circuit.
Yeah, we're
And
seeing just
where does that stairway go?
So the smaller
roof?
steps, go back to inside one of the other gables. And then the steps that you're seeing right now, they do lead up to roof access for maintenance. So we've got a very large roof here at the gables.
Yes, you do. Holly, I want to thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for coming and visiting us today. And
I hope the people that watch this will come and meet you.
I hope so too. We're always happy to welcome folks here at the Gables.
Thank you. Now, this is kind of a stupid question, but what's your job here?
Oh, to tend to the gardens, keep them in shape and looking beautiful.
And that they do, my goodness.
Thank you. Robin tells us what to do.
And you do it.
We do it. Yeah,
Sounds like a plan.
yeah.
Any sunflowers?
No
No
sunflowers.
sunflowers. Everything else.
Yeah.
You got a beautiful scene out there,
Oh, isn't
Salem
it,
Harbor.
Isn't it beautiful?